All right. Well, we are in. I guess I didn't do the 30-second countdown thing, or maybe I don't know how to do that. I'm still learning the StreamYard stuff, so hopefully I'll get better at it. Normally I'm a guest. I do these once a month for Indie Comics Dispatch and all that. So tonight we've got Kevin with us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll jump into some discussion about Freak Snow and all your awesome projects going on.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, my name is Kevin. Like you just said, like a really fucking basic name that a lot of people got. So nothing cool there. But yeah, I'm the creator of Freak Snow and the publisher at Happy Tank, which is my home publishing company. That is an imprint for Behemoth Comics. And well, yeah, that's pretty much what I do on the comic book side. I got other businesses, but you don't fucking care about those. This is a comic book show, so so yeah, that's what I do as a comic book guy. I publish and I make my own series. And I got other stuff coming up, but they're all not really on the plate right now. So nothing cool to talk about. But yeah, Freak Snow and Happy Tank is my brands right now.
So Happy Tank is part of Behemoth now, right?
Like, yeah. So yeah, they are our parent company. So for example, like at Image Comics, they got Skybound, Top Cow, and stuff like that. We are like a Skybound for Behemoth, for example.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So what got you writing? Like, got you into comics to begin with? Like growing up, like, did you see yourself writing comics, or just something that kind of randomly happened?
Not at all. For me, comic book was just like punching the bad guys and shit like that. Like nothing, nothing cool to me. I was in high school. I was one of those cliche guy playing hockey and chilling with the cheerleaders. So I had nothing nerds. I was nearly a bully, we could say. So I was on the other spectrum at that point. And but it's just like my parents wanted me to be like a sport guy playing hockey and stuff like that. So we're just like, oh, okay, I'm in the sport gang, And at some point, well, I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I still want. That's my end goal at some point to be a film director. And I really got into films, and just because of one teacher, my story teacher, did give me when I was in the class, the complete Stanley Kubrick collection. And he just said to myself, don't tell your mom I give you A Clockwork Orange. I was like 15 years old. So and I just watched I did watch like in a weekend, the 12 or 13 films of Stanley Kubrick. And I was like, okay, cool. I want to be that guy. And what I said to that teacher, to like, what was the movie, my favorite movies, it was Watchmen from Zack Snyder. And when I saw Watchmen, I was like, I don't know. It was in 2009. I don't know what age I was, but I was like 15 or 16 or something like that. And I saw Watchmen. It was, and I did learn it was a graphic novel. And at that point, at that moment in my life, I understood, comic books are more than just punching the bad guys and shit like that. So I did go to my local comic book shop and buy the Watchmen graphic novel. And after reading that graphic novel, I just fell in love with the medium. And the next day, I was at a comic book shop and buying other comics and stuff like that. And it's probably the moment I did become officially a nerd and really being into comics. And but I was a fucking nerd. I was playing video games 12 hours a day and having my YouTube channel like in 2011, 13 and stuff like that. I was really it was my way to create and be cool, and be on the cool gang at school, which probably most of them are not my friends right now. But anyway, that was just like And Watchmen from Zack Snyder is really what got me into comics. And it's kind of funny because I think 6 months after that, I did become co-owner of that comic book shop. I just decided to invest into it because I didn't really get into comics. And it's at that point, while being on the retail seat, that I did really get interest into the comic book industry and like discover Diamond and all the purchase process and all readers think and all people order what they are interested in. It's really being as a retailer that I understood, or actually I understood the most what was the business of the comic book. And that's pretty much my story, yeah.
So you owned a comic book store or invested in a comic book store?
Yeah, I had like a small share into it. I really got into comic book store and get friend with the comic book guy of my hometown. And I said, hey man, do you want to, I would like to be your partner. How much? And I had like a little really little amount of money stack, and I just said, I cannot have like really small share of the company and just get there and not being paid. I just want to be there and understand all that thing work, and that's what I did. I did put like a few like I don't remember but it was a few thousand, less than $5,000 I had put in that company, and just to be there and understand all its works, and that's all I did learn. I did buy a place in that company to understand all the comic book industry was working, and I just get really obsessed with it at that time.
Oh wow! So that really gave you like an insight on how to market and get your own book out there. Then I assume, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And at that point, I did not want to be a creator in comic book and stuff like that. I was really into films, but I did get into the idea of publishing because, like with Stars, we got the previous catalog, and well, pretty much everyone knows what the previous catalog, but it's that thing. We got like one every month dropping at the store, and in that there is like 600 or 700 pages. It's crazy the amount of product into it, and I started to have like this idea to be a publisher because I was just on the other side, and I got really intrigued of what is the published side of that company, of that industry. Because first of all, I'm an entrepreneur. I really love the business side of the creative businesses, more than, and maybe more than trading actually. So I was doing, and I decided to make a publishing company at some point, and I just dropped into a Facebook group, and I said, "Hey, we want to be published by Kevin." Well, by me. I'm fucking Kevin, so why did I say by Kevin? I got a guy named Rob Cannon, and which is my partner since. We did Freak Snow together, and we call Happy Thing now. But we did a first publishing companies for people that know me since 2016 or something like that. I had a company named Rats and Crows Publishing. We did run that for 2 years. We did all the mistake in the world a publisher can do, and we sold the company to someone in Israel. I don't even know what he is doing with the company right now, but he owned it. And we stopped publishing for 2 years and just built Freak Snow and write and stuff like that because we did sell actually to focus on creating stuff. And well, I had this desire to go back because now I did learn all the mistake. And then we come back with Happy Thing with Behemoth, which was our publisher on Freak Snow to make a fast story short.
How did you get in touch with Behemoth? Like, how was that process?
Super classic. I just sent the submission for my graphic novel Freak Snow. I said, "Hey, I got this thing. Do you want to publish it?" And we got pretty lucky because in 2 minutes they did reply and say yes, we want it. I got on the phone with Nathan, and it's the kind of relationship that like just on the phone for 10 seconds, oh yeah, that's a perfect fit. And we just became buddies after that and worked really together because our marketing ideas and style of stuff, of course, we're not arguing on everything like any Russian shit. And that's why it's best because we can challenge on both sides ideas and stuff like that. But yeah, it's type of relationship that the second that you have like one word coming out of the mouth of the other person, that's going to be a good fit. So the stars was aligned, I guess, that day, and yeah, it was super fast. And I have no crazy stories about the submission process and stuff like that.
Wow, that's pretty awesome because I know a lot of people have submitted so many times, and that's awesome to hear that you kind of had that within like a 2 minute of sending the email, just getting that conversation going. That's really cool. So how'd you come up with the concept for Freak Snow? Like, was that a you thing? You and Rob kind of came up with that together. What was that process like?
So it was me. I was super fascinated by this idea, and it was not crazy, but that setup, because I'm from Quebec, the French part of Canada, and it's super fucking French. It's super fucking French, but it's also super fucking cold in the winter. And I really hate winter. Winter, I hate that shit. That's the worst nightmare a human being can live in. So when the winter was super hard in Quebec, I was playing inside Fallout and Borderlands, which are my two favorite video game franchise. So I hate winter and I love those games. So I just did put them in a blender and mix them together, and Freak Snow was born. Because I'm not a creator of like the post-apocalyptic frozen land. But I'm like, why most of the post-apo stuff are all happening in a desert or something, a place really odd. Like, let's do it where there is snow everywhere, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I did combine my hate for winter and my love for Fallout and Borderlands, basically. And at the beginning, I was working with another artist because Rob at that time he was just done with working in comics because of all our failure as publishers at that time. And I was working with another artist. The artist was not delivering the page and was like not the look I wanted. I just said, "Hey Rob, come back because that fucking series is made for you." And we just starting to work together on Freaks now. And now we are at we did that first graphic novels together, and we have the first issue of the second series in the Freaks No World coming out on May 26th in all comic book shop.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, Freak Snow reminded me, like, I saw a lot of Borderlands in that, you know.
Yep.
So that's awesome. I can totally see the influence there through the work. So that's really cool. I to hear that you're influenced by Borderlands, especially because I'm a huge fan of Borderlands and Fallout. As a I don't know how that my tablet started making noise. Sorry. But those two franchises are really near and dear to me, especially Borderlands. I remember when the game came out, I spent like 7 hours the first night just playing that. And so I totally see the influence there, and I really enjoyed reading through with that. So I guess that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, your influences, I guess Fallout and Borderlands, do you have any like writer influences, like in the comic book or even film area?
Yeah, for Freak Snow, it's sure that for the world, the setting was really Borderland and Freak Snow, Borderland and Fallout. But for the story itself and the characters and all those stuff, they were not really the influence. It's more like the setting and the mood of the books. But my influence are mostly filmmakers. Mm-hmm. I really love Gaspar Noé. I will name like a bunch of names that no one fucking know. Like, Gaspar Noé is a French film director making some indie weird films. I really love Terrence Malick, which is one of my favorite film directors. Nicolas Refn as well. I can go on and on with some. Stanley Kubrick at some point. Stanley Kubrick is someone I'm really inspired by, and I think it's kind of cliche for someone to say, "Hey, I love cinema." I think we all named Stanley Kubrick when we are a film geek. But Denis Villeneuve as well, which is the director of Blade Runner, Sicario, and the next Dune, for example. And it's kind of more than an inspiration at some point because he is from the same hometown than me, and it's become a human inspiration at the same point because, we come from this small little French town in North America, but we can get to Hollywood as well and stuff like that, you know. So Denis Villeneuve is an inspiration on that point, as well as being an inspiration creatively. Todd McFarlane's, not as a creator, but as a human being an entrepreneur in the comic book field, is definitely an inspiration for me. Jason Blum, big producer of all the horror stuff. I'm fascinated by the business side of that guy. That's few names that really inspire me on a daily basis.
So speaking of like business, a lot of people tune in on this show to kind of learn some of the ins and outs of the indie comic book industry, because you have a lot of creators and artists out there that are really good at what they do with creativity and all that stuff. But sometimes we can kind of get lost navigating the business world of comics. So, I saw the other day you've broken 10,000 in sales on Freak Snow, right? So
yeah, we are now at 13,000 or something like that. It's going up, still going up, and we got it for our issue, so it's super cool. And the second series we're publishing as Happy Thing, the number one that broke 40,000 copies. It's just crazy.
So what do you attribute to that level of success? So if to someone, just getting into the industry or just releasing their first book and maybe having like a small distribution deal, or like, getting on Diamond, because like you said, with Diamond, they have a huge book, right? So how did you get your book to stand out to retailers so that they would pick your stuff up? Was that like a cold calling thing to call stores and tell them to buy your book? Do you have like a street team or something like that? Go into how you built your success on that.
So the marketing aspect of it is pretty much done by myself, and Behemoth as well contribute, of course, because we're distributed by their channels. But I don't have a team. I don't have a team for now. I'm still like, we're still a small business as Happy Thing. You know, we just we have like books pre-order, but nothing released. The pre-order is super huge. I mean, on I think on our fourth month we will already have sell 100K books. You know, it's pretty crazy how fast the business is growing. And even myself, I'm like, okay, cool. But I think there is, I don't have like a secret or something like that. I think that something really important that people need to understand the most important thing is actually the quality standard of your book. I think that's nothing more important. Adapting to the market that you're projecting. For example, I think there is no better way to know if your book is as a standard of the industry by going to the comic book store, grab any Image Comics books, and bring with you an issue of your book, and just open both and look at the artwork. And if the artwork is not the same quality as that Image book, you're doing it wrong. Because it's not true that your book cannot be at the same quality of art or the same quality of writing and stuff like that. Because there is many artists that are at the price that you can afford. And sometimes I hear like people paying artists at 100 something dollars, but I'm like, oh, I have an artist that is US based or even Canada based, not like someone foreign and paying like $2, you know, and just being someone that abuse the system of currency, which can help and everyone is happy with. But there is some really great artists that are going to do the colorings, and that's something. If you want to be affordable on the creative side, take an artist that do coloring, lettering, does everything for you. That's something real important, because if you start paying letterers and the pencil ink and stuff like that, you're going to get a crazy amount of money for not reaching a quality standard, probably, you know, because you don't have the budget at that point. But take a really good artist that fit the standard of Image Comics, fit the standard of Dark Horse, fit the standard of any publishers that are top 5, for example. That's the step one. Go to the comic book store, take your shit, and if you're not a standard, just switch creative team or just restart and do something else and go with another book. Because if you're not at the standard, that's the book that the industry and the customers are buying, and that's the standard that they are expecting for, because that's the book that they're going to the shop every week to buy. If you're not at that quality, why would they be interested in your book? There is no reason.
Right.
And the second one is also, of course, distribution. Like Kickstarter is a good way to start. Of course, there is no better way to start, because you go out there, you show that you know how to drive social media, that you have a small crowd. But after it's going to be distribution, whatever the way that you're going to get it. And it's definitely true deals. I mean, not necessarily having a publisher. You can do super well going with self-distribution. But for example, to grab distribution, you can go, oh, why I don't sign a deal with Humble Bundles, for example, and put my book into it and just sell 3,000 books, you know, in one day, because I did that. Or going with reaching out for a store that do stores exclusive and say, hey, we just did well on Kickstarter and I have like this thing. We could just build this community group. Do you want 500 copies and do that exclusive? If you are at the standard of the industry, no one will say no, because your book is professional, you know, to the highs of the readers. And that's just the key. It's really just following the standard of the top 5 publishers. I think there is no other way. And you can follow the standards with your first book. I don't think it's an excuse to just say, oh, that's an indie book, you know, and stuff like that. There is artists out there that you can pay $100 per page. It's just $100 per page, and be at the Image, DC, Marvel, and etc. quality.
So with what did you find to be like the most troublesome piece, or like where did you have any like bumps in the road going from concept of Freak Snow to getting on Behemoth to having now, you said 13,000 copies of your book sold? I mean, that's impressive. I talk to people all the time that are in the 150 to 200 range. So that's impressive to a lot of people. What did you struggle with along the way? Like, what would you say is the hardest part of that process for you?
You know, the creative process, or not just creative process, but the business side of any business is not. You know, I wish I could say like, oh, it's all about the businesses, but it's about your whole life and your choice. It's about the restaurant you will go and the budget you will have after. It's about the time you will pass with friends instead of working on your project. And what I do personally, I have no life. I'm always in front of my computer and working on my project, and crossing fingers, it's gonna pay off in a few years, and that's the only secret, and it sounds super cliche, because I know that any entrepreneurs or rappers or filmmakers that didn't make it were gonna say that, like, I was working 80 hours a day, but that's pretty much the only key to someone successful. If you're not, there is exception, but I think that if you really want to hustle, you believe in that dream, you want to live from that, because it's cool. If you just want to be a hobbyist, or just like doing 3 4 5 job and still doing comics and have cool in the community, that's super awesome. I wish I was like that, but I'm someone full of obsession and obsession, and that just feel that can do one thing and be driven by something. And I'm probably have some mental issues, to be honest, to be like that. But I don't feel the need to go out with friends and stuff like that. I just feel the need to be into focus into my things, and that's my life, and that's will be for a few years now, and that's my current obsession, and I cannot get out of it, and that's. I think that's the secret. Just make like choice. For example, I nearly did go bankrupt at some point, but I did not give a shit because I was focused on that. Maybe I can skip like some dinner and just like, okay, we're just gonna be eating one time a day for a week and waiting for some money to come in, and after we're back in business. And I think that's pretty much the secret is, it's just like, are you ready to make sacrifice to go full time on a creative business? Because the problem, you're not waiting for your salary every week. You're just crossing fingers that something gonna work in your weird hustle that everyone think you're crazy around you, going all in, and that's the secret. I think it's just like putting your ego aside, and going all in and being confident in what you're pursuing as a crazy human being, and believing that your little thing with bubbles in it gonna make you money to survive at some point. there is something totally crazy and poetic, I guess, into that thing, but I think that's the biggest secret to go all in. And if we go into the more of the business side of the thing, when there is a difference to be releasing book without distributors and distributors, of course. If you go without distributors, of course, it's directly to the readers on social media, but it's important to show your journey, because when you start as a creator, your EP worth zero. You have no readers, there is no interest into it, people doesn't know your characters, don't know what's the story, so the only thing that there is value is yourself. So you are your personal brand. You're selling yourself when you're self-publishing a book. Just like, why should you support Kevin? And you need to show your journey and what you're doing, and why you're so excited, why you're so passionate about your book. Like, when you talk about it, your smile need to go like right fucking here. That's super important, and that's what's gonna sell your book, because there is no interest. Like, why someone will throw money to your EP when it's nothing? It's nothing in the universe so far. So you need to make them feel that they're like, it's might be stupid to say that, but you need to sound like a charity in some way. Like, hey, this guy got dreams. This guy got dreams. Throw him money. You're actually part of a charity to finance the dreams of that guy and maybe kickstart that guy. And that's what self-publishing is, in some way. At the beginning, when you start as a creator, after you can be really successful as a publisher and just sell product, but as a beginning, it's just like, hey, I got dreams, help me. And that's pretty much it. And when you get on distribution side, is oh yeah, you had something to say, Chris? I know I talk a lot. So.
No, keep going. This is great stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, your passion is definitely prevalent here, so keep going.
Awesome. I'm glad it's interesting. So and when you get at the point that you got a distributor between the chain, between you and the communication, you turn your communication to speaking to retailers, because retailers are the one that order for you and not readers. If retailers doesn't order, there is no way customer is going to get actually the book. So turning to retailers, what they are interested in is free stuff, and actually sharing them what is the product. Just like, hey, me, for example, I was reaching to retailers that doesn't know me, doesn't know Freaks know. I'm no one in that fucking industry, even if I'm selling stuff. I'm reaching out, and like a shop in Texas, for example, I'm like, hey, I'm Kevin Roditeli, blah, blah, blah. You don't know me. I got a book is coming out. It's awesome. But yeah, awesome is not an argument to buy my shit. You know, it's
Right.
an awesome thing can stay on the shelf if people doesn't know what it is. But I said, man, I'm going to do a video for your Facebook page. Then I'm going to have my book like that when I receive my boxes at home and say, okay, Freak Snow is freaking awesome. And it's right now at your local comic book shop, blah, 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 blah. And I name the shop. And go grab it. You're going to love it. This is the next big thing. It's just like you need to sell, you need to show that you're gonna be a salesman for them, for the shop. But why that they, for example, that it won't be like 600 copies like you were doing alone, and it's this 600 gonna turn into a 6,000? It's because now that a shop is 10 customers, for example.
Mhm.
So when you do your promotion out now, just add a zero to it, and it's pretty much it. You know, when you start building your fan base, but you just like turn it to shop.
I think a lot of creators kind of they ignore the retail aspect of things because to a lot of people it can be hard to think about getting into a retail store because
Right.
how do I do that? It's so hard to get out there. I have to contact all these stores, like, you know, and I think they're sleeping on that because a retail store will buy anywhere from 5 to 10 copies of your book just to test it out and see if it sells.
Sure.
And then it's just on you to get into the areas in which they're at and do some heavy promotion. You know, you had said to your point, you said, you know, with a direct to customer, you're selling one book, but to a retail store, like I said, you're selling 5 to 10. So with you at 13,000, that's not all direct to customer sales. That's some big orders right there from from calling and doing those videos and promoting your book and getting it out there. So another question I have, you know, you're releasing your book in May, and you've been working, you know, with Behemoth and the indie comics. You're very, very active in all the channels that I'm in for indie comics. I see your name every day, posting and, you know, engaging people. So what do you see on your part? Like, what do you see as the state of indie right now, especially during our pandemic? Like, what do you think?
It's I think it is the most healthy time since the 90s, to be honest.
Mhm.
We are right now in a speculation bubble. If people did not realize, we are right now in the second big speculation bubble. Well, the first big one since the 90s, because of Boom. It's pretty much because of Boom and their strategy and how they've been marketing the books and making some fake second prints and stuff like that. Well, they're really sketchy on some stuff, but I love Boom. I love Boom. It's probably my favorite publisher in the game right now. There is an inspiration, and they are the new blueprint, you know, of that speculation speculation game that we're in. So for indie comics, what does it mean to be in a speculation world where stuff get actually adapted into movies, series, video games, stuff like that? It just means that you can play with that and you can pitch. I think the biggest problem with indie comic book creators or anyone that's started into a business, you know, we when we start as an entrepreneur, because when you create a book, you're directly an entrepreneur because your book is a product. That's something I think a lot of creators forget or doesn't know, that actually a book is a product. So you are an entrepreneur. And when you get your product in your hand, your objective, what you should do with it is actually selling it. And not just selling it to readers, is actually saying it to foreign publishers, so French translation, Italian, or whatever languages you want to sell it. You should sell it as well to Hollywood and film producers and stuff like that. And the biggest problem of new entrepreneurs, they are, and I understand it, you're scared or you don't know if it's right to do it, is actually ask anything to everyone. That's all you succeed in business.
Yeah.
There is nothing more important to just reach out and say, hey man, will you take my book to the shop? Hey man, look at this, maybe you could be interested to publish it. Hey man, I got this thing, I know you produced it, a couple of indie films, maybe this could interest you. And even if there is just one person of all the people you contact that will say yes to the thing you did ask, well, you are part of probably the one person that actually asked you that 1% of things. So you're part of the 1%. And if you hear everyone talking always about like, oh, the 1% of the society and stuff like that, well, that 1% of rich people in the society, they are in the conversation always, because there is 1% of everything in every field of your life. Like, there is probably 1% of people around you that really love you. There is probably 1% of people that of restaurant that you really actually like, and you're not just going there because, well, it's a McDonald's and it's beside me and it's go fast through drive-through, for example.
Mhm.
I think that there is always this logic of ask, and do it, and of course be asked that with style. Just don't go like to Jason Blum and say, hey, gotta look at that shit.
I think a lot of people are afraid of that rejection because I know it especially with like creators, they they put a lot of passion into their project, they put all this energy into it, and then the last thing they want to do is get rejected if someone doesn't like it, or pitch it to a store and the store say, I can't sell that. I think that's kind of like a mentality that needs to be broken because if that store won't sell it, then maybe the next one will. And I work on the distribution side. I mean, right now it's a mess where I'm at because of a release of a very, very big game that we're in the middle of. And I mean, this is a game that started on Kickstarter, and this kid just literally contacted everybody saying, will you buy my game? And he wound up, I think we have 16,000 orders of just this one card game,
Nice.
And he took it from Kickstarter, and now we've got Eminem and another big musical artist trying to get in on the marketing for this. And it's like literally this kid started in his parents' garage making a card game. And I look at that and I say, if this kid can have just so much faith in this one idea for a card game, why can't people who are putting their life's blood into a book call a store and say, hey, pick up 5 copies of my book. I'm gonna promote it. I'm gonna sell it. I just need it in your store to have people go there and get it. I think that's really cool that that's what you did, was just start calling stores and saying, hey, let me make a video for you. That takes a lot.
And personally, I don't really call them. I just messenger, and that doesn't take the courage of calling. You can just messenger now with the technology and where we are. But to come back to your question, I know people hate hearing that, and will maybe sound pretentious when I say it, but just like because I'm super young, and when I say that, people are just like, oh, okay, that's the pretentious young kid. But but it's just something I didn't understand because I started in business when I was 12 years old, and I did so many failures, and I did lost so many monies, and I did all the mistake of someone I get in business at 32, because I did start selling shit when I was 10 years old. That's my passion, selling shit at some point, So, but I think the biggest problem of like you said, people that are scared, that the retailers say that, or customers say that about their product and stuff like that, it's all go back to the ego of someone. You really need to understand that you cannot have an ego. And when you start living through your ego and just not putting your ego aside, you will start growing as an entrepreneur, as a creator. It's really, I love this. Yo, Untitled. And that's something super important. Just putting your ego aside, because you will stop growing as an entrepreneur. You will stop growing as a creator because ego will just make you blind. You don't see that your shit could be, your book can be shit, and a lot of people can say that it's shit and be super honest about it. Like, hey, this is not good, and you will be just like, oh, they don't understand, because your ego will make you blind. And most of the time, if a retailer say to you, your books suck, they might be right. Maybe not just one. Maybe if 5 retailers tell you your book sucks, I'm sorry, I cannot take it. Well, you should not say, hey, my book is super good. They're all wrong. Maybe you should look at it or just ask them what you think doesn't work with the product. And after ask your question and go through it, and that come back to my thing I said at the beginning, go to a comic book store, grab Image Comic Books, and compare. And maybe at that time you will be like, oh, okay, they are right. Because the retailer are actually the one on the front, It's like if you take a battlefield, like World War II battlefield, the one that are seeing what's really going on in that war is not the guy that is at the back with talking to the general in the United States when the war is in Japan, It's the guy that is at the front and see all the flesh going everywhere and the bomb that are bombing. And that's the retailer, because he see customers every day. And And there is nothing harder than a customer as a comic book shop, because I've been at the retails, because the publisher is not there, the creator is not there. It's just like face to face with people that sell product or buy product, because a comic book shop is a buyer, and the reader is a buyer. So
Right.
both are super honest with products,
And
So
another thing to your point with that too, like the retailer, the store worker, whoever it is, whether it's the part-time employee, the full-time employee, the manager,
they are readers.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time. I think I was a district manager for GameStop for 7 years. But even my time in the stores, I got to interact with so many of my customers that I knew what people would like, what was going to sell well in different stores, because it's always a different, different group of people in every area.
Right.
For instance, when I was in Boone, North Carolina, Skyrim, like RPGs and shooters were the biggest thing. But then you go down to Winston and you have all the kids with the Pokemon, and it's just different areas. And so I think when we talk to retailers and you get that, hey, this book isn't going to sell, or this book isn't good, don't choke up and go back and be like, no, my book is good. You just don't know what it's about. Well, why don't you think it's good? Like, what can I make it better? Yeah. Because like when I was releasing my first and second issue, I just sent it out for free to like a bunch of my friends that read books. And I said, hey, what do you think of this? And book one was done. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to redo it. But What can I do better next time? Or what can I make some edits in this? Because, once the art's done, it's very hard to go back and fix everything. But what can I do within my range to fix this? And so we made some edits there. And then book two, the same thing. And when someone would give me that criticism or that, creative criticism back, I never once was like, oh, you just don't get it. It's like, okay, I need to fix that. I need to, because if you think that, there's definitely 10 other people that do. And so I want to make sure that I'm accommodating to that. And as a creator, you're right. I think sometimes our ego does get in the way. I think that we put all this passion and all this thought into this creation. And so when someone doesn't like it, it's like, our hands go up. So like, yeah, I totally understand that. And I think you're on the nail with that. And getting that feedback from a retail store. Everybody has a local comic book store they can go to and say, hey, check out my book. What do you think? Give me some honest feedback and see what they say. I mean, if anything, it's going to help you grow, and
understand the market as well. And understand the market because, for example, in 2000, I don't know, like, I don't remember the day, but when Lord of the Ring did release, like in 2002, for example, well, I'm pretty sure that fantasy books were selling super well. But right now, fantasy is not at the moment that we are. There is kind of a, it's post Game of Thrones. We had like a 7th season and stuff like that. Like people are more into, I guess, dystopia, post-apocalyptic. That's kind of what's going on right now. But in 6 months, we'll switch to another thing. So it's really important to get also like a feedback of the market and study the market. Because I see a lot of creators that are not studying the market and just like, oh, I want to do a superhero, not a superhero. That's maybe not an example because superhero will always sell. But I want to do a crime thing, but doesn't look at the market. But as creative person, I'm super sure that you have like 15 EPs in your mind, and probably that you got one that fit with the current market that you can release now and have bigger sales because it's fit with the current market, and probably your crime story will fit in 2 years. Just wait and put in 2 years. But after, it's something super important also to understand creator. Don't be like mad if something does not sell or is not a bestseller or something like that. It's important also to know what's your target. For example, for Freaks Now, I was like, hey man, I want 5,000, and 5,000, it's a hit to me. Like nothing, your book doesn't need to be like a big fucking hit or mainstream. It's impossible. You're a new creator probably, or just like, it's not all the EPs are meant for that. There is some of my favorite films are indie films that no one did watch. But they were great, but no one did watch them. But the filmmaker knew it, when did they create? Just like they had this idea, it didn't need to come out, and there was a public that, for example, I was part of it, that wanted that thing. Sometimes you create something just for a niche, and that's all right because that's the niche you want to play in, and there is nothing wrong with it because niche. The market is so big and saturated that targeting niche is the greatest thing that you can do as a creator and as an entrepreneur because it's super more easy to reach. For example, me, I love, I'm making post-apocalyptic book right now, and it's super easy to reach. I just go Facebook group, post-apocalyptic fans, bang, I got a bunch of readers. I go follow Facebook groups. hey, I created a book that is inspired by that, blah blah blah. Just sell 20 copies. I go on Reddit. I check possibility, blah blah blah. Okay, cool. New particular movie is selling. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go in that Reddit as well. So it's way easier to target when you reach a niche and you're part of that niche, as a creator. So it's don't target like, oh, what's the most mainstream thing? You won't win because the most mainstream thing is done by Disney, it's done by Warner, it's done by those big corporate that has all the marketing budget in the world that you cannot fight versus. Do your own thing and do it at your scales. Don't overvalue things. So and it's all about a budget. If your book costs, I don't know, $500, well, your goal should not be to sell 10,000 copies. Like usually we'll sell 200 copies, and that's a success. And we just need to look at box office, for example, why there is John Wick 4 and not a sequel to, for example, Man of Steel's.
Right.
Well, Man of Steel's, if we look, like John Wick films are produced with $20 million, for example. I don't have the numbers in front of me, and they do 100 millions at the box office. Well, that's 5 times the budget. 20. Well, there you go.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at Man of Steel's. Okay, that did cuts 250 millions budget and did 300 millions in the box office. Well, that's not a lot of percentage of profit. So why would I invest into this? And that's the same thing for comics, for anything in creationship, or for anything in entrepreneurship. Your success is based on the investment you do on a product. Yeah, so that's something super interesting, super important for creators that we might forgive sometimes.
Yeah, speaking of that, like with Kickstarter, I see a lot of people, like, let's just say I saw a book recently with a goal of like $7,000, right? Yep. And I asked, like, well, reaching $7,000 on Kickstarter, and this might be your second book, third book, whatever it is. If you reach $7,000 and you have 7,000 into it, and you only make, say, 7,500, you're not, yeah, you can say that you made $7,500 on Kickstarter for it. But then you see another book who's maybe their budget's 500 to 1,000, and they make 4,000. The return on investment is so much greater. And I tried to have that conversation with some people where they're like, oh, well, I'm not doing $7,000 on Kickstarter. And I'm like, but your book didn't cost $7,000 to make, so you're still in the good,
And you actually made more money than that guy, probably.
Right. Yeah, their book may have made it into more hands, and that's also goes back to your goals. If your goal is to get it into more hands, then maybe use up your budget and use some money into marketing, or spend, like you said it like great early on. You don't have a job. You literally, your job is to market your book. You said you're on Reddit, you're on Facebook, you're on all these different channels, and I don't think a lot of people take advantage of those. And to like talk about the niche thing. So talking about like my stuff, we're a D&D based book. All my stuff's based off of Dungeons and Dragons in this game we play. Nice. So I always go into actually the past few months, I've started to go into Dungeons and Dragons rooms and been like, hey, if you like 5th edition, our book's based off of a 5th edition game. And I've gotten a whole bunch of new people. You say some keywords like we have a cleric base or a monk or something like that. And people are like, oh, I like those kind of characters. And then they go and check it out and they're like, this is a D&D game. Oh, that's crazy. And all of a sudden I have a new reader. Whereas if I were to go into a superhero group and say, hey, I have a superhero book, they're going to pass me over because they want to read Spider-Man or Superman, or these superheroes they're accustomed to. And so I think that's a really good point to a lot of creators is like, find what niche that you're actually in and market to that. You might have a horror book, but what kind of horror book? You might have a manga book, but where does it fall in? Like those are interesting things for people to hear, because I think a lot of people just get to that first layer and don't go any further. So that's really cool.
Well, yeah. And the biggest problem is just like, since all the mainstream stuff and the big news side that always share like the trailers and the movies and stuff like that, when we get into marketing, because I speak like that because my background is marketing. I have a marketing company and stuff like that. So that's what I do beside comics. So the big problem that someone will do when they start marketing their companies most of the time, or their books, is they will take inspiration from big company marketing, which doesn't make sense because, well, they are on a budget that you and me, it will be more than the money we will do in our lifetime, probably combined, just for one product. What you need to do is actually compare to a creator in your niche. And a creator, like, for example, you take I don't know, a creator that does well on Kickstarter, and you compare to what he does. And there is nothing wrong with copying the model of someone. If the models are there to be copied, it's not nothing that we say that copying is actually the biggest flattery or something like that. It's true. If you see like a good-looking Kickstarter campaign and people really understand what the reware are, the pledge are coming in and stuff like that, copy that guy. Copy that guy. Nothing wrong with it, because you know what? That guy did copy someone before you. So
when it comes to marketing, especially, like, no one's done anything that's original. It's always off the blueprint that somebody else made.
Right. And that's something people don't realize. The rollout marketing is part of all people gonna appreciate the book, because your journey that they feel through marketing is all they like you. And when you like someone, you're gonna like the product. And that's why Hollywood for a long time did run with actors. So for example, you did go to a Stallone movie. You were a Stallone fan, and you love it because Stallone was in the movie, not because the movie was good. The movie could really suck, but Stallone did actually kill a guy with acting gun. That was so cool. I love that movie, but that movie would fucking suck probably if you watch it today when you're illusional in your thoughts. And that's the same thing. That's why marketing is super important, because the marketing will just put that blurry images into the face of people, and just think that everything you do is great. Because marketing is kind of this little you start eating somewhere in a restaurant, and the first bite you do of a thing, if the first bite is good and the last bite is good in your plate, but the middle thing that you did, for example, there was 3 things in your plate. The first thing was good. The thing in the middle was, but the last thing was good. Well, the thing in the middle, you forget it, and you just come back the next week, because the last bite you had is the last thing you had in your mouth. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the thing. So your marketing is the first and the last bite. What is in the middle? It's your product. And your product can be really average. You're someone starting out, and people know it. People know it when they contribute to your Kickstarter. It's probably won't be a great book, because you just start out and they want to support you. And that's not a problem. If they appreciate your marketing, they will be like, hey, man, that was super cool. I will be back for the next campaign, because you did a great marketing campaign before and after. And they enjoy the journey, because we live in a world that most of the entertainment is Tilly Riley show. If with the Kardashian and stuff like that for the TV side. And now with TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, it's reality TV. It's the same thing. It's the new version of it. When you look at Logan Paul with doing his fighting match, it's fucking Kardashian for men. That's the same thing, or for teenage or whatever. We live in that world where all the entertainment is still it's reality TV shows, and it's the same thing for action movies and action star now. If I go back to action star, when we look at The Rock, while The Rock is so cool, it's because he is doing his Instagram videos about motivation and workout and shit. And that's all part of why you're gonna enjoy the movie. And most of the Rock films are actually pretty bad, but except Jumanji. Jumanji is fucking cool, but that's all part of it. So it's really important to consider marketing part of your thing, because you're not Stephen King, that can just sell with your name in books. But Stephen King sell because he did a lot of cocaine in the 90s, and everyone was just like, oh, Maximum for driving sick because he did cocaine. But it's one of the worst movies of all time,
Well, even to that point, we're talking about like The Rock, right? He's got such a rabid fan base. He said he was going to run for president as a joke, and everybody was like, I'll vote for you. And
that's marketing.
Right. Like the marketing aspect, I think, falls flat for a lot of people. They think, I'm going to put my stuff out there, and all of a sudden it's just going to sell. And that's completely false. The hardest part is the pre-launch and then the post. It's like the marketing is what's going to sell your book. You can have the best cover. You can have the best story. You can have the coolest graphics, everything. It's not going to sell unless people see it, and people see it through marketing,
Yeah, and you are a product as well.
Right. Like people don't. And I think when, COVID hit and everybody went to this new virtual world that we live in, it became much easier to market. and people don't always take advantage of it properly. Like you see the different YouTube channels coming up and all these different things, and people don't use those. Get on those YouTube channels, get in front of people. It might be 5-10 people at a time, but if you do that 10 times in a week, now all of a sudden you're in front of 100 people.
Yeah,
you've done marketing, right? Like making all these videos and sending them for the stores. I mean, your
with no budget,
right? Like, it's free. These YouTube videos are free. Like this is all free press, free marketing at our hands. Definitely use it. Get your stuff out there because, like you said, marketing is what's going to sell your book, not the graphics, not the cover. If you're on Kickstarter, people are going to think you're a beginner. Well, show them at least the professional marketing campaign, and they're going to, oh, okay, well, I definitely want to check this out.
And also something important with Kickstarter is actually people are giving you money for a product that they are not sure they will get. So it's really important that they know who is behind and they trust you. So showing your face through the process, actually saying, oh yeah, I believe that guy will give me something at the end of the day, So that's also why you need to show your face. I think it's really important, in the process, even more for Kickstarter.
If you do like the lives and you do these chats with people, they feel more connected with you.
Sure.
They might, and we talk about reality TV. Like look at some of the biggest reality TV shows. When someone gets off the show, people feel heartbroken because now their favorite character's gone and they keep up with their lives. Like to me, it's a little bit creepy sometimes when I see people paying attention more to celebrities' lives than say their own family. But it's like, that's how people are. They get entrenched in who people are. Personally, I don't really want everybody knowing my personal business, but knowing me as a human being and, seeing me as a certain kind of person, I think that helps sometimes with people checking out my book because they're like, oh, this guy's kind of cool and maybe I like him, let me check out his stuff. And I think the showing your personality, showing who you are, and talking about the 90s, all right, we had like the rock star team at Image that literally they could literally put out garbage, and some of them did, and people still bought it. You go back to some of those original Image books.
Oh crap.
Yeah, like I mean, we can joke around about feet and hands and just the art style of some of them, but people still bought them in troves. We have five different covers for one book, and they bought 25 of each one just because it was that creator. Todd McFarlane going from Spawn or Spider-Man to Spawn. People didn't buy Spawn because they were like, oh, I want to check the story out. It's like, oh, what did Todd McFarlane create? And
Solly.
Yeah, we just need to get back into that. Like
yeah, that's a big problem with the industry right now. Just like having the creators in the industry itself treat the comic book industry as an inferior medium than music, films, or whatever, because we are the thing that get adapted. So it just mean that adapted is inferior, which should that be? If we just go back, like you said, like 30 years ago, comic book ad rock stars, Todd McFarlane could go to McDonald's and someone random would say, hi, you're Todd McFarlane, like if he was Ozzy Osbourne, So that's fucking crazy, As an introvert, it's all. There is many ways to do it, buddy. Dan is super awesome. I know that, but you can actually start blogging. You can actually start. There is many other way to actually not talk like me all the time with my really weird English. You can go blogging. You can go blogging. You can actually just. Show stuff of your book and post. You can show your personality through text as well. There is many ways to do it because, for example, I have one of my favorite journalism. Well, I will not name his name because it's a French guy that I don't even know his face, but I just see his name and start reading through and I just love the way that he write and the personality and all the personal touch that he put into his article. And that's actually showing your personality and who you are through text. And that's something possible. But the difference between making a blog post and your book, where you're going to show your personality, I think there is a possibility of everyone in a book. If not, you're not writing it, I guess. But the blog post is actually free somewhere, or just a Facebook post is free, so it's direct in the face of someone. And for your book, it's totally different. So you can actually show personality just by being yourself while writing. So you can do it this way as in someone that doesn't like to actually speak or just whatever,
Well, yeah, because like a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we can joke around about that. But seriously, if you look at a lot of like professional photos, especially, you get to see inside the person just from the photo, just how they're standing, how their face is. And if you're very passionate about your book, you can show that in a picture by having, like, by working on your book, or you know, you don't have to do the live videos. I know, even me personally, I tell this people all the time. It's funny because I spent 6 years touring, you know, playing these sold out shows, I was on Warped Tour, things like that. And then last year I went to do my first live, you know, my Instagram live, and I was nervous. You know, I literally used to play in front of hundreds of people with no issue, but talking to a screen was very, you know, nerve-wracking. Now I do it like 2 and 3 times a week, and it just becomes second nature. So I tell people, practice. You know, you have friends, you have family, get in there and just go on your personal Instagram, put up your book, talk about it. People are going to see your passion. You know, this entire chat, you've been nothing but passionate. And anybody that checks this out is going to go, wow, this guy loves what he does. I want to see what he does. And I think that should bleed over to anybody when you're talking about your stuff. Your high energy, your excitement levels for what you're doing are just, you know, they're going to bleed into anybody that's checking your stuff out. So, you know, I can't speak enough about how either posting and showing people you're excited, or getting on and learning, you know, getting over that fear of getting on a channel. I mean, everybody right now, you know, with the TikTok and the Instagram and the Facebook, you know, we're all out there putting ourselves out. And I think, you know, to my next question, it was going to be like, what advice would you give to others trying to grow their brand? You know, going from someone who invested a few $1,000s into a comic book store and now breaking $13,000 in sales, you know, that's a big leap, you know? So what would you do, and what would you say to like somebody who's asking for your advice on how to grow their brand?
The most important thing, I think, is being yourself. I think that's the biggest issue, you know, when we get on in the internet stuff and stuff like that. It's you kind of, I think, automatically try to be a persona and not yourself, and just fit into what you feel socially you should be on social media. But that's not what people want. Like, for example, Dan just wrote that he is an introvert. Well, say it that you are introvert, and just be who you are, because that's what people want to follow. That's what people want to interact with. They want to interact with the real person, because I think that if you're not yourself, it's just shown. It just show that you're not yourself and not doing your own thing, and not being you playing something, you know. And it's the same thing for yourself. If you're not yourself, I think that you won't be dedicated to posting or just sharing with people what you're doing, because you will always try to find a way to do it right in that person that you are at the moment, you know, besides just doing it because you're just yourself, you know. And that's something super important. I think that there is nothing more important than being yourself. And as well, asking to people and try to connect with the right ones. And the most important one, it's knowing your flaws and what you're good at, and mostly your flaws, because I think that what you're good at, it's something that we can say that we are good at something and we're not, just because of egos, or just what we want to be good, that because we want it so bad that actually we're not good at that thing, but we want to be good. So we're gonna say that we are. But know your flaws. That's something the most important. For example, I work with Rob Cannons because I think it's someone that complete my flaws as a creator. I think that Free Snow without him would not be a good series. And with him, we are actually completing our flaws, and apparently it's good from people or what they were saying. So I'm glad. But for example, I'm really good to write the story and bring the ideas and stuff like that. But to have like composition of the story and just putting the stuff together and stuff like that, I need a guy like Rob that is a mind that is more binary, you know, and choice that not chaotic like mine. So you just bring a structure that make that things works. And in many other ideas, for example, that we work together because, well, I do all the business side of it, and he does all the thing in the background. He is in the shadow, making all the Photoshop, the InDesign, and making the thing look good. And the book's actually going to press, which is something I could not do because, well, I'm a fucking boomer when it comes to computers. So, and I know it. I won't try to be like Photoshop master genius of the fucking century, you know, because I'm not good at that, and I have no interest. So why would I try something I have no interest being good? I will just work with people that are good in that thing. And just like say, okay, Kevin, you're good at making deals, connecting with peoples, and coming up with stories when you write you were on your own stuff. So I will focus on that fields. And on my part time, if I have something I'm really passionate about and I want to get better, I will develop that shit on my part time, but I will not be saying like, "Hey, that's my task." No, I won't, because I will fuck up my business because I'm not good at that thing, you know. And
Mhm.
that's something super important. You need to find your collaborators because you cannot be a one man army. And trust me, and trust me that if it's a money problem or something like that, there is many people that if you have the intention and you know your flaws, that you say, okay, I'm good at that. What are you good at? And you just took that guy and I love this guy. Yeah, man, I love this guy too. So cheers.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's from Australia. Super good friend of mine. He's actually
Nice,
working
dude.
on a book. We talk about our flaws and our strengths and stuff. I've
That's
only been
cool.
drawing for like 2 years. I really never anticipated getting into all this stuff. And I've got him and Nate, their brothers, our brothers-in-law. But they're working on my stuff. And honestly, speaking to you're working with people who complete you. I'm in this circle now of guys who we all have different strengths and these different things we're really good at, and seeing everybody work together towards the same goal. It's like
That's
we're
awesome.
getting so much further so faster because we have, hey, you're good at this, can you take care of this? Hey Chris, you're really good at talking to people and selling stuff. Can you do that? Of course. I'm like you. If I have to sell it, I'm fine. If I have to sit here and do all the design work and learn like InDesign, when you say that, I get a headache because I don't want to learn InDesign. All these little things I just don't want to learn how to do because I don't have the time. I can, instead of using 10 hours to figure it out when somebody else can do it in 2, I'd rather go, hey, you take care of that. I'm going to use my 10 hours on stuff I'm really good at so
Right.
we can get further faster. And, and to that too, like we have a lot of creators out there who are on their own. Find someone, partner with them, and bring your dream to life together. Like you said, like you and Rob, like you complete each other. I think that's really cool that you have like a partner in crime there, because a lot of people don't have that like coming out the gate. And when I looked at your book, like you guys definitely have this like creative click, like his art and your words kind of really click well together, because you have this like, and I'm not gonna, your book comes out in May, but the creative chaos that you have going on, it's perfectly portrayed in your art. And so I think that's awesome. You have someone that compliments you just so well.
Thank you. Yeah, and that did start because I did ask. It wasn't Facebook group like in 2016. I did ask like, hey, I want to publish someone. And that guy that come up with his pitch was named Saint Six at the time, a series that Rob was working on. And I just fell in love with his drawing, his art style, and what he was doing with all he was writing and shit. And that was like, oh, okay, I'm in love with that style. I need to work with that guy. And that's just some, everything that we did together was true passion, and,
Mhm.
and love for each other work. And I think that any relationship should be based on that. Like, work with your favorite artist, work with your favorite writer, work with your favorite publisher. Like, if at some point you are a creator and you want to be published by someone, don't pitch like at 15 publishers in just the same pitch, but you change in your email like I Behemoth, I Scout Comics, I Authentic Press, or I Image Comics. No, just send one or two. I know you can have more than one favorite publisher, but send just to people that you love and the vibes you love. Like, because for example, a publisher accept your work, but it's not your vibe and it's not something you're gonna fit. Well, your book won't sell well because you don't fit the brand first, and the publisher did a wrong job to create your book. And second, though, you won't have fun there, so you will lose all the passion. If there is something in the process that is not with passion, done with passion, you're gonna fail. You're gonna
Mhm.
fail because you won't have like this energy, this little thing, this flame inside of you that at some point in the process there will be a fireman with water just shooting your passion meter. So it's really important at any stage you do it with passion and people that are as passionate as you with what you do, and that's all you're going to succeed in any field of your life. It's like, for example, we I think we all did it at some point. You see a girl, you find her super freaking hot, and you're like, oh, I gotta see her and blah 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 blah. But after 5C, and there is no way that there is a connection. but you're a little, and you keep trying a little bit, and then you see, well, it doesn't work, but you will still continue. That make no sense. You should have stopped at the second, and you see like, oh yeah, she is into cars, dog, and she loved like Japanese sushis and shit like that. That's the three things that I hate the most in the world. But she is so I'm gonna continue. This is the most wrong thing you can do in your life, and that's the same thing with publishers. Like you can say, oh, their books are beautiful. They do kid books. They do blah 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 blah. But it's all what you hate, and that's all that doesn't fit with you. It's the same thing. A publisher is an odd girl, you know, and you go with the odd girl that has a personality that fit with you.
Mhm.
It's the same thing.
That's a really good analogy there, because you're creating a relationship, whether or not
Yep.
you want to accept it. It's like that's a creative relationship. Speaking like when I was in my band, it was 5 guys in a van for months at a time, right? And talk about a relationship. I had 4 girlfriends the entire time. We were best friends and everything, but
Right.
you make one wrong move, and one of them is mad at you, and then you're sitting in the back of the van, or they're not going to help you unload your equipment, or they're going to go through the drive-through and not get your order. Like the garbage that we went through, and really at the end, what really hurt the band and why we wound up, right before our 3rd album released, like why we broke up. We didn't get into a relationship with people that were like-minded and good for us. We got into a relationship with people that were good at their instruments, because when we approached it, we were like, this is a business. We already had a record deal. We had lost a few members, and we were like, we just want this guitarist, this bassist, and because they're good at what they do, is going to make us better. Not realizing, oh wow, this is going to create a headache for us because we don't agree fundamentally on anything. And then you put us in a van for 6 months. So just imagine on a publisher level, you're approaching a publisher and you don't agree on anything, and they come back and they say, hey, we don't like this about your book. We can't market this. We can't do this. What's going to happen? They're going to put you on the bottom of the marketing list, and you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point. So with that, you launch Happy Tank. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Happy Tank, your new imprint, and relationship with Behemoth, and how that's all tied together.
Yeah, for sure. Happy Tank is my publishing company with Rob. So you understand I'm doing the publisher role, and he is the editor-in-chief and making all the design and stuff. And so our direction is pretty much like an Adult Swim type brand. We focus on anything that has a kind of cartoonish artwork, and at the same time, it could be dark, super rated R, but at the same time super charming. We got comedy, we got action comedies, we got everything. And it's kind of weird because I'm someone, you saw the book freaks know it's super stupid and weird, but at the same time we love to have like this deep little feeling that actually people read the issue is like, oh, this book actually made me think. So that's what we want. We're really trying to find books that are super dumb, but at the same time super intelligent. The most intelligent dumb books. That's pretty much what we try to do with Happy Tank. And that publishing line, we are trying to go for half created owner series and half licenses. So that's all we're releasing. When we drop a license, the next one will be a creator series, and after license stuff like that. And all those license fits our brand, and all those creator fit our brand, because I think that's something really important for a publisher. It's having your audience that connect with all the books, or actually try to always stay in your niche. So it's something important for me that, like, oh, if you did like Freaks Know, you're gonna like the 10 books that are gonna release before after. That's something important for me, and that's what I try to achieve as a publisher, and that's why I have like many headaches right now, and just like trying to find the right books to fit. That's the job of a publisher, at some point. And for a creator, don't feel bad when a publisher reject your book. It's not because it's bad most of the time. It's actually just like, did you check what their brand was? When you submit something and you just say, oh yeah, my thing is a superhero, but I see that Kevin is actually releasing stuff that just like cartoon action comedy. yeah, it was sure that I will reject it. It just doesn't fit the brand I try to build. For example, when I speak for myself, so it's not that I don't like your thing. It's probably super good. Just like I don't see what I will do, and probably if I say, "Oh yeah, let's sign," 3 years after, you will be asking, "Hey, when my thing come out?" And just like I don't know where to fit it, because the job publisher is just like completing a puzzle and strategies of, okay, if I release that book there, is the sales gonna bounce from the last one because there is kind of a connection? Oh, that was a big licenses, and that actually the title that we believe will do the less sales. So we're just gonna put it after it and just like continue on the bandwagon of big sales that we had with the last one. So we're gonna actually do good because we had this license that did like 40,000 sales, for example. So the other one that was supposed to just do 3K gonna do 10K because they're like, oh, what's gonna be the next big thing from Happy Tank? So you buy the next one, which is the title that we're sure that will be the less selling one. So the job publisher is just to complete that puzzle of making fit everything together to have the biggest sales. So it's important that actually your book fit with the brand. So when you submit something, look at what the publisher released and just like, do I think I fit into that? If their answer is yes, submit. Before that, you're just gonna lose your time because it's gonna be a rejection, and rejection can hurt yourself. Yeah. So it's something that you will, when you look as a publisher lineup, you will probably already know that you're gonna be rejected or accepted, or probably accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of that, I'm sure when you launched Happy Tank, it was just an influx of, hey, check out my book, right?
Like, yeah, and I, all of that, I'm not even sure that there was one that we did accept actually, and it's in the book that being submitted directly to us. I think there is just like one series that was accepted through all the submission we got, and it's 100 of submission if it's not 1,000 so far. Probably just one of unsolicited submission we got. All the others was me or other people of the team that was like, hey, look at this, I just saw that on Instagram, that looks super fucking cool, it's fitting our brand, because we know what's fit, as a publisher, and what we are looking for. So when something not solicited come in, there is change that it's fit, but it's not what we are looking for at the moment because we did not see your title yet. So maybe you can bring in the thing that we were looking for, but the chance that is actually going through the submission process, it's hard because the publishing, a publishing company, if people doesn't know, with all the distribution, and you are into distribution, you know it, but there is month before the release, and the release for publishers in comics is monthly, so the chain of release never stops, and it's always months before that we do the submission to distributors. For in case of with Diamond, for example, it's 4 months before. With Simon & Schuster's, when we release our graphic novels, it's 6 months before. So our lineup right now, when I'm talking to you, I know that there is some stuff on my lineup that's going to be released in 2023. And I could probably go to 2024 with some stuff that are signed. We are years in advance for what's coming up. So when we think about what we are looking for, is like, I take a bet that this thing gonna fit my lineup in 2023 and be trendy at that time, just looking at what's going on in Hollywood, what's going on in the comic book industry and stuff like that. So there is many factors that they're gonna make a book accepted or not.
A lot of retailers, especially when we're talking about distribution and things like that. On my end, I literally talk to these comic book stores on a daily basis, like anywhere from on a low day, it's 20, on a high day, it's 50. And every single one of them wants to know, what am I getting in the next few months? Because they're planning their sale, especially like right now, I think we're in the middle of summer. Come August, they need to have a plan for Q4, with the holiday season. They need to know what's going to be on their shelves, what they're going to be promoting, and having a conversation with the store and saying, hey, I might go to Kickstarter next year with my second book. They're going to be like, so I have an empty spot on my shelf for a year. You need to have that constant rotation of titles, or at least having a plan. And, we talk about like the majors. You talk about the new Watchmen book. I think they did Watchmen DC crossover. And I think one of the books was it took like 6 months or 8 months to come through. And I remember reading an article where the stores were so upset with the blank space, and that, they had been promoting this book, and that now they didn't even want to buy it because the publisher took so long to put it out. As indie comics, we don't have that clout of the major books to really say, oh, I'm going to take 10 months to put out a book. We just don't have that. So you need to have that plan. You need to have that execution for the retail stores. And if you're going to a publisher is going to ask you too, like, what's your plan? You know, how many books do you think that this is going to be? What's your story like? Do you have a beginning, middle, and end? You know, like when you pitched to Behemoth and you gave them your pitch, it wasn't just for, hey, I have this one book idea. It was like, I have this story I want to tell, right?
Yeah, and the first question of publisher is always where you are in production, you know, because for example, us at Happy Tank, we don't accept books that are not finished because of how quick the distribution process is, you know. Or actually, the first issue, when it's really good, we're gonna take it at the first issue and say, okay, now you got, we gonna pick up the book, but not schedule it in our scheduled release, you know, releases before you are completely finished with the series, because it goes so fast that, like you said, retailers going to get upset. For example, we missed the release because the production was not done. You know, that's a big mistake. Maybe DC can do it because it's DC, but for an indie publisher, it's something that can kill businesses. And for example, a retailer can say, "Oh, Behemoth doesn't believe, or Happy Thing doesn't believe on the release of their books. So why would I order that and just put my orders into it and just stop ordering our books as a publisher?" So that's something really important for a creative team to say, okay, to a publisher, we have the first issue done, but the series will be complete in 6 months, for example, and you will have all the material. This is the end, the beginning, and the shit. And don't go too crazy. Like don't like do 20 pages of stories and shit like that. We don't have time. You know, we are already busy with the stuff that is in pre-order, the stuff that is released, and what we are doing as marketing. We are busy on all the stuff that are more important unsolicited submission, you know. So put a few pages of heart, a paragraph of what's your story. Nothing big. Like I want to know what it is in 4 lines. After that, I don't have time. When I see a full page, or any publisher, when you see a full page or more of text, it's just like, oh, I don't have time for this. Sorry. And probably the best stories in the fucking world, but you did show that you doesn't know that a publisher doesn't have time, you know, for this, which just show the publisher that you did not do your research or know the industry that you want to work in, and that just show that you're not ready to get to that stage of being published. That's something important as well. So just present it really short. If you have like a full PDF, just maybe put the link. Hey, if you got interest with that short description, here's the full PDF, and that's it. You know, don't need to go like really big. Don't put your BO and stuff like that. It's something that will just show to publishers like, oh, that guy is full of shit. You know, I don't want to work with someone that has like a big ego like that. It would just be a nightmare. You know, because there is nothing worse in entertainment to work with egos, and that's why, you know, there is a lot of famous actors, for example, that were like, oh, where is this guy? Just like everyone most of the time, just like everyone did get tired to work with this actor, because he was like, oh, I'm the biggest actor in the shit. I want like 3 Dom Perignon in my van. I want to have 5 pair of shoes, an assistant just for me on set. And everyone's like, oh, fuck that guy, you know. I don't want him on my movie set. And that's the same thing for comic book creation. I think that a publishing team is actually a movie set, you know. So if the producer and the directors and all those guys are tired as you as an actor before actually publishing it, like, because your submission is the audition, you know. So if they're already tired of your attitude and your personality at the audition moment, it's impossible that they will publish you. And just like your first submission, they might remember your name in 3 years. So it's already dangerous for yourself. So it's really important that you actually do research before going through submission. Maybe reach out to a creator that look cool on Facebook and Instagram or whatever platform that you know is publishing, and just ask, hey man, can you just send me the PDF of your pitches? Just one pitch that I can look at and just copy the model, you know? Because like I said with Kickstarter, that guy did copy the model of another creator. So just take it and do it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to take the last couple minutes and give you some time to talk about what we can expect moving forward from Happy Tank.
I hope a lot of cool stuff. So our first release is my own personal series and Rob series, which is Freak Snow #1, dropping on May 26th, and after it's monthly, always the last Wednesday of the month. for 4 months. It's a 4 issues miniseries. After we got MFKZ dropping in June. MFKZ is we just sold the first issue, 45,000 copies that are gonna be printed. It's our biggest hit. It's our second title, so it's easy
The
to be
cover
our
was
first second.
awesome on that one. By the way, that one is really
Thank you, dude. Yeah, it's actually the movie poster that we did take, because that's actually there is a movie of that thing that is right now on the Netflix US, So we just took the right for the poster and put it there and say in the peer review's description, hey, there is a movie on Netflix, so retailers take that. There is people that saw the movie. So that was pretty much all we did market the thing, and I think that's big part of the success of the thing. And the covers are awesome, so it sure it's helped. It's a medium that's sold by the covers most of the time. After we got Cinnamon, that is our number one right now in the previews. Crazy story of a cat that is pretty much schizophrenic and think that his owner is a kaiju, and all the toys are actually like guns and robots and shit like that, and rats or some mutants. So we just see the house as a big world where everything is kind of a big monster. So it's super funky and weird. And our fourth series is gonna be the comic book adaptation, prequel, and after we're gonna do other ones that are between the movie number 1 and movie 2 that is right now in development of Turbo Kids, and there is a video games in development as well. So we are doing a comic book that gonna be tie-in with it. So I'm not saying we are doing, but if the first series doesn't do good, we won't do the rest. But yeah, so that's our first series, and we have some other crazy stuff. It's always like one created honor series, and after we go for a movie license or a video game license, So that's pretty much it for Happything. So just go to happything.co and you will see our stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all the success. I mean, that's really awesome to hear all that.
Thank you.
Those are some big numbers and some awesome titles that you've got. Like I said, that one poster. Every time you post it, I'm like, dang, like I want to read that book. That's awesome. And even with Freak Snow, I love the cover. It's really eye-catching. It's really just like it grabs you and says, "Hey, read me." So awesome stuff. Is there anything you want to say to anybody before we end? Try to keep this usually to about an hour. We're at about an hour and 20 minutes, so I appreciate everyone that stuck with us and listened. There's you provided some really good insight for a lot of people. Especially hearing your story and a lot of the real talk that you gave everybody on publishing and getting into retail stores. That's some great stuff. So thank you. I'll give you a minute. Just, if there's anything you want to say as a sign off.
Thank you for everyone watching this thing. It's always appreciated that you took your time to listen to myself, and thank you, Chris, for having me, man. That's super cool. I had a lot of fun talking to you, and I hope I did not sound like an asshole. And people actually take some knowledge from my thing. So awesome. So yeah, cool. And I hope everyone enjoy our books. We have a lot of fun releasing them, and working on those.
I'm gonna just give the sign off here for Indie Comics Dispatch. There is a year 2 Kickstarter going on right now on our website, indiecomicsdispatch.com, or you can search it on Kickstarter. I think we're really close to the next stretch goal, so check that out. It's actually got some collector cards. One of them is my character Caliber from Homebrewed Comics, Crit. He went off against Omen in one of our verses, and he kind of won that one. So I'm kind of proud of that. So go check it out. IndieComicsDispatch.com, Kickstarter year 2. Thanks, guys. See you next month.